Welcome back to The Creative Herd. You're listening to episode number 7, where I sat down with a true coffee connoisseur, Matt Hoyle, a lead barista who also co-runs a coffee pop-up called Stock in Crown. He came over and we talked about how he got started pretty much enjoying coffee, and we talk about getting stuck inside your own head, how to separate your ideas into which ones you should follow, and we talk about enjoying the process and enjoying more of the journey.
I'm going to keep my sniffs to a minimum.
That's my problem,
and
too.
Try and pronounce my words for once, because Are you a
mumbler?
I'm known to mumble a lot.
Dude, I'm a mumbler too. This is why I'm doing it. I don't care about stories. I want to be able to pronounce words better.
Like you gotta put that in the podcast. The real heart behind this.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
So give me a rundown of who you are.
So my name is Matt Hoyle. I'm 24 years old. I live in Whitby. Lived in Durham region my whole life.
Shout out Durham region.
Durham region for life. I grew up in Pickering, PK all day. and I'm living in Whitby with my wife. I'm a newlywed, almost a year now.
How's that been?
It's been great. It's been really great. Yeah, we've been together for a long time, and it's been a perfect natural flow into like the next chapter of our lives together.
That's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're a newlywed. What kind of hobbies do you guys have going on?
Yeah, so for me, I've been really into music since a young age.
Oh, right on.
And
you play any instruments?
Drums, keys, guitar, and I sing.
So yes, everything.
So a lot of things. For some reason I never touched the bass. I don't know why. It's just something. It was almost like it was one of those instruments where someone else would always do it. Yeah. So it's like, oh no, he'll do it. It's fine.
So what instrument did you learn first?
Drums.
Drums?
Yeah, drums was a big pivotal point when my dad and all my parents' friends were thinking, let's like force Matt to start touching instruments.
That's actually how I started. I play guitar as well,
mm-hmm.
and it was the same. Like my dad kind of like forced me into playing guitar.
Yeah.
And there's like a hump that you reach. You're like learning, and it's like this sucks.
Yeah.
And then you reach it, and you're like, this is really fun. Actually,
right.
I can do it.
I remember I guess I was probably about 10, and my dad was like, I signed us up for guitar lessons at like this local public school where this guy brought all these, I think it was father-son. It seemed like it was a family-oriented thing. And I remember just being in there so frustrated because both of us sucked and we couldn't do it. And I was just so frustrated. And then I just dropped it. I just wasn't about it anymore. And then I came back a few years later.
For drums.
Crazy. That was a funny story in itself because I grew up in church and my dad, well, both my parents were always pushing me to get into music.
Mm-hmm. Would they want you to be like part of the band on stage?
Yeah. And it was probably a lot of it was because my brother and I would just spend hours in the basement playing Rock Band. If you ever played Rock Band, you know.
Yeah.
And once you get to expert, there's like nothing higher. You're like, you either play a real instrument or you're just going to be in your mom's basement for the rest of your life playing music.
Yeah, dude, that's so good.
So it got to a point where everyone's like, Matt, are you gonna play music? Everyone just asking over and over again. And at that age, I'm just trying to be real stubborn because I felt like that was my job at that age. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'll do it. Fine, I'll just go. I'll play drums.
So what age were you when you were starting to learn drums?
That's probably
like still pretty young.
Yeah, that's probably 12. It's probably 12 or 13.
Yeah. Super impressionable.
Mm-hmm.
Where'd you go for lessons?
The main drummer of the church.
Oh, okay.
Had a studio in his house. So I went there for 2 years. And then after that, kind of started a cycle, and my brother went after him, after me.
Drums too
For 2 years. And then in the time when my brother started, I switched to piano with the same guy for 2 years. So that's kind of how the cycle started. And then after the piano died down, I asked for a guitar for Christmas. I don't know why.
So you're secretly musically inclined.
So it was just this cycle of one instrument after another, just become fascinated with it.
So the real question is, do you play any of these instruments still?
Guitar.
Yeah?
Yeah, I still play guitar and keys. I don't have my drum kit anymore.
It's kind of a big thing to
move into
around.
An apartment,
yeah,
and there's just no room.
Yeah,
there's no room for it. So,
right on. So besides music and stuff, growing up, what other things were you into?
Skateboarding.
Skateboarding, yeah.
Skateboarding was a really big thing. It was a really important outlet for me and friends together.
Yeah, I feel like skateboarding is such a good. Like, I'll definitely try to get my kid into like. I don't want to say I want to push them into it, but it's like it's an unorganized sport. Like, you are doing it at your own accord. You're hanging out with people younger and older. You learn so many things that you couldn't on like a team with a coach.
Yep.
So,
yeah, there's just this unspoken thing about it that's so freeing and stress relieving.
For sure, that's definitely like such a huge aspect of it.
And I feel that like this is what happened for me. The earlier you start skateboarding, there's always this brief moment in time when you and all your friends are wanting to shoot videos, and they are the worst videos ever produced. And you try and put the most cheeseball music, and you're just wearing outrageous clothes, like pants that are 6 times too big.
Dude, there's so many videos exactly like that online that I have filmed with my friends.
And the fattest shoes you've ever seen.
Oh yeah, dude. For sure. It's just like, why did I think that was cool? But that's life. That's being a kid.
Yep. Rest in peace to MySpace, because that would have resurrected a whole other life for me.
Oh man. Were you big into MySpace and stuff?
At that time.
I guess every kid was.
That was where we posted all of our videos. Seems like another life ago.
It really was. So besides, I mean, I guess that's still pretty young. What kind of hobbies did you keep growing up? Because I mean, MySpace died out, so
yeah.
You would have had to find new ones.
I felt like I kept skating until no one did in my friend group.
Yeah.
And I got to a point where I was tired of skating alone.
Yeah.
So
I can see that.
I switched it up a bit and started playing soccer and basketball, and I was just into a lot of different sports at that time. So that carried me through elementary and high school.
Were you like, what age did you start drinking coffee, or was that even?
I feel like it was late high school, like grade 12 probably, when you're feeling the pressures of exams and making it with grades. And
yeah, it's like, what else can I do to wake myself up? That's funny. Was that like obviously just like around in your home and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna do this?
So I started drinking coffee probably late high school, early college. And a lot of it, I think I started like full on chugging it early college just to get through placements and like just long hours, places.
Just getting the caffeine.
Just getting it through.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where I think at that time I was working at a local library.
That's cool.
It was an amazing job. People don't give librarians enough credit. It was such a good job, and I've never had so much peace and quiet in my life.
So did then your coffee intake kind of drop back when you were working?
Oh no, I needed more because I would just like want to fall asleep in the aisles, stocking books, and just
That makes sense.
tapping out for a few minutes. So yeah, at that time, coffee as a job wasn't a thing. I was still just working in a library.
It probably
going to
wasn't even
school.
big back then. Like being a barista is only in the last like I wouldn't even know how many years, but
Yeah.
it's definitely popped off as like a culture hub.
Yeah, for sure. And to see it as a career is definitely a perception that's changing, for sure. I think as not just as a barista, but as any like coffee industry employee, I think that it's gonna keep changing as just waves of different trends come and go.
For sure. I mean, that's how everything, like even in the arts, that wasn't like a viable career until like until it was. It wasn't even like a smooth transition. So this whole like movement of like making everything more attainable and people having like their own roasters and stuff of it'll be a career like when it is. There's going to be like a very fast transition.
Right. And I bring up the library job because it wasn't until I changed jobs spontaneously because I was bored at the library that the coffee interest just popped off.
Just drab working at a library, fall asleep
I was
all the
tired
time.
of the quiet.
Yeah.
So for some reason, I still don't understand it to this day. I'm like, I'm going to go work at Starbucks. I'm going to go just flip a switch and go from talking to one person a shift to hundreds, millions of people a shift. So, yeah, I literally applied, got a job at Starbucks across the street from my house. And
I mean, that might have had something to do with it.
The library was close to my house, too.
Oh.
So
Right on.
it worked out for me either way. And there's just, at first, it was a lot to just start learning. Yeah. And I feel like there's always that learning curve for people when they get into coffee. They're like, this is a lot of knowledge and things to know, especially at Starbucks.
Well, yeah, because they have their own way of doing everything. What position did you start in?
Just a barista.
Okay.
Which is basically the lowest. That's like the entry level
thing at Starbucks.
job.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you just have to learn from there. And at this point, was coffee still like, I need it to get through my shift? Or was this
Still.
like, yeah?
When I first started there, I just took it for what it was and spent a good 6 months just learning. Not really thinking too much of it. And at that time, I had changed friend groups and just met new people. And a lot of the new people that I was hanging out with were going to a lot of coffee shops downtown and it just in the area. And I was like, yeah, I'll come.
Yeah, hang out.
I'll tag along and see what this is about. And just going in these places, I was just so shook. I was like, what is this whole other world where people aren't like cramming in the door just trying to get their pumpkin spice latte
and running
in and out, and if you don't do it in time, then
it is crazy to each coffee shop has like their own little culture and their own little like world going on inside within it. But it's almost funny because like that you say how different those are, because Tim Hortons, Starbucks, people are like, they are taking their coffee and they're leaving. In Europe and like little coffee shops that are like nooks and crannies to sit, people come and have their coffee. And there's a huge difference between like having coffee and like taking coffee because nobody's hanging out and like meeting each other by accident or just like, I'm just going to sit and read a book and have my coffee and enjoy it and be like, no, I need this latte and I need to get in my car and I need to go.
I've never even thought about it the way you just said, like having it and taking it are completely different things.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's when you think about like why, like for me, coffee in the morning is a very like slow and like it's a ritual that like I like my morning. I like to sit in some sunlight and have it's a nice feeling. And to think about it like taking coffee to go is like
Yeah.
it's just like not a good thought for me.
I remember when I started making coffee at home, and I was starting what is now my life, just geeking out on it.
Yeah.
And my parents are just like, what is going on? What are you doing? And I'm like, Dad, there's like so much more to this than what it looks like I'm doing. Like, I make coffee at home because it slows me down.
Mm-hmm.
Where so many days you get up and you got to be places, you're thinking so far ahead of where you are in the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
And coffee's done that for me in a lot of ways. Is just helped me be present.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the unspoken truth of it, is it just brings you to a place where, like, even us right now, being present now in this moment,
Mm-hmm.
is it's just like an unspoken truth about it.
Yeah, it's like it's a coffee thing.
Yeah.
People aren't going to come together over like
Water.
Yeah, and water, you know. So at some point when you were working at Starbucks, did like the switch kind of flip and you're like, I actually want to learn as much as I can about this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When I started going to a lot of shops and spending too much money on mugs and just random coffee things, gear and stuff.
So were you into like making coffee at that point or drinking it?
It was transitioning to making it.
Yeah.
And how all the different brewing devices worked, and what the pros and cons of
just
making
like
coffee this way is, and why it's important to do this instead of what like 90% of the world does.
Yeah.
And it was just a whole other world opening up to me.
I think that might be like why your mind switched, I guess, if you're like, wow, this is like, there's so much on this end, what more can I do? And that sparked it, and now you are still in the same, very much in a different spot, not working at Starbucks.
Yep. Yeah.
And would you say a different position? I mean, it seems to be called the same thing, but I wouldn't say that you have the same role.
So after Starbucks, I went and worked at an independent one in Markham here. It's just a different learning environment, and I really appreciated just being a fly on the wall for that, even though my role wasn't exactly what I thought and dreamt that it would be.
It was a barista?
Yes, I ended up washing a lot more dishes than I'd like to admit. I think I touched the machine probably like a few times.
So at this point, were you thinking of like, I'm picking up all this information, maybe I can do what they're doing on my own? Like as you were learning all these things,
I think,
or was that not even on the radar yet?
It was on the radar, but I still felt like it was a long way off.
A lot of stuff to maybe touch the machine a few more times.
Yeah, and there's definitely a lot of pride and arrogance in it, that I've done Starbucks, I've done the independent shop, now I'm ready. Yeah,
true. I see that.
And I've put in my time, but time on the floor doesn't necessarily mean that you have what it takes to run a shop or run a business. It's just your current circumstance.
So when did, or what changed for you to start thinking about, hey, maybe I could possibly do this and make a thing of this?
I think after working at that first independent shop to where I am now.
Like making that switch?
Yeah.
Because you changed jobs to another independent.
Yeah, where I am now in Stouffville. The reason I changed was because the new role that I was jumping into was in a lot of ways a leadership role. Where I am now is training and having a lot of say in things that I didn't have a say in before or anywhere close to it. I still am like extremely grateful for it, because if where I am now, like they never gave me a chance and like stuck their neck out for me to be in this role, like I don't know where I would have, after the last shop, I don't know where I would have gone.
So they basically took a chance on like a dishwasher to be head of staff.
Yes. Yeah. Totally.
Were you nervous taking on this new position, or you were like hungry for it?
I was both.
Yeah.
I was hungry for it because I knew that I could do a lot of the things that were expected of me. But for the things I was less experienced in, say the espresso machine, because I barely touched it at my last job.
Yeah. At what point did you understand that like I am beyond like a hobby of like taking an interest? Like, yeah, I like my morning coffee, to like, yeah, I actually like know a lot about this. I'm really interested and I'm hungry to like learn all of this knowledge, and like it's different and changing into like a feasible career path.
There hasn't been, like, to be honest, there hasn't been a real cookie cut answer in my life. It's been like a process of doors opening and closing and just discerning what is truly like best for me and my future and now my family.
You were very in tune with like, this is what I like. I am good at it and I'm also hungry for it. And then were led in such a way that you ended up in a leadership role, and then you're like, okay, this is a feasible like career path. I can do this and support my family at the same time.
Right.
Fantastic. And I guess like you were in this leadership role when you're like, maybe I can like make some sort of side hustle through this.
So when I was working where I am now, I was reading a lot of blogs and following a lot of baristas in the States and around the world, and seeing the ideas that people were coming up with on how to make it a feasible business while still being involved in a cafe, or some people just really risked it all and jumped off the bridge and
just selling iced coffees on the corner or something.
Yeah, literally. And I'm like, I can do that. It's not a complicated thing.
As long as like there's passion behind it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And so that's where Stock and Crown came from, which is a business that I co-own with a close friend of mine named Matthew as well. And we didn't want to call it M&M.
I could see why. So, like, were you guys thinking and discussing this before you actually did it?
So Matthew was one of the friends that I used to go to a lot of coffee shops with.
Okay.
And there's something about him and I that we just like connected when it came to shops, when it came to like noticing little things about shops and what they bring to communities, and just super crazy about the whole industry.
Yeah.
Which I had never come across before. Like,
yeah. So you guys had like the same like interests, and then this sort of somebody pitched the idea, this premise came up. Like what was the premise of like, maybe it was you like seeing these other people doing like pop-ups and you're like, I think we could do a pop-up basically.
It was a couple things. First, when I started seeing how easy we could just pop up somewhere and do something like serve coffee, that it didn't really take that much capital and maybe took a little bit of time, but we were totally willing to put in a little bit on the side of whatever we were doing. At that time, Matt was working at a shop downtown, and I was working at the shop in Markham, transitioning to Stouffville. And it was when I was driving down the same road I always took, and there was a painter's cart on the side of the road that was so water damaged and stuff falling off it, and it was actually sitting out in the winter. This was just at the end of winter, and the snow is slowly
like melting
off of it, just dripping, and it was outside of a greenhouse where they sell like orchids or something.
So you're like, I'm gonna put this in my car.
Yeah. So I ran up their driveway because I didn't want to just take it.
Oh yeah.
Because I wasn't sure if it was a table just to hold the recycling bins or something.
Oh, okay. So you're being a good person asking if you could take it.
I was like, do I really want to base our business off of theft? So I ran up to the door, and I don't know if she was used to having any visitors, or she was petrified of me knocking on her door. I was like, hey, I saw that cart on the side of the road. Are you guys using it for anything? And she's like, no, just take it. And she just like slammed the door.
Weird.
All right. So I squashed that little thing in my Mazda 3 hatchback.
Thank God it's a hatchback.
Barely fit it in there.
As soon as you got this cart, you were like, it's a thing. We're doing a pop-up.
Mm-hmm. So I felt like this was the first step.
Yeah, of course. I mean, not of course, but like in the mind of like you see something, you're like, I know how to use this.
Mm-hmm. I was passing by it every day, and I was like, maybe one day I'll go ask, and
True.
if it's still there in a few months. Like I was passing it for a few months.
You passed it all winter.
Yeah.
And just let it. You're like, you know what? Maybe when the snow's off of it, I'll pick it up.
Because I figured if it's still there after the winter, then it's fair game. So that's where that started. And we put the cart in like my parents' garage for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really use it. And then a friend of ours named Joanna, she just finished her master's.
Oh, okay.
And
big deal.
Yeah. And she was throwing some party at her condo downtown.
Cool.
And me and Matt had been just posting random things about coffee on social media. And she asked, would you guys want to come serve coffee however you want to?
So your first opportunity.
Yep. And at the time, we were like, we don't have a name. We don't have any idea of how to do this. We just found a cart. We haven't served anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's only one way to learn.
Yeah. So we're like, okay, a condo in this massive party room thing in the middle of Toronto. It had like a rooftop garden. It was pretty sweet. And yeah, we just used this massive kitchen counter and I don't know why I did this, but I brought an AeroPress, which is a single serve like immersion brewer, which basically means it's like a tube that you put the hot water and the coffee in, and you just let it.
Just one cup at a time.
Just one cup at a time, and you gotta push it down to push it through a filter. And I didn't bring a mug. There's no mugs in this place. It was all paper cups. So
you couldn't push down on anything.
So I couldn't push down on anything. So I'm pushing down while pulling up to keep the pressure. I don't even know how to explain it.
Oh, it makes sense.
Without trying to crush the cup.
That's all you brought. You brought this painter cart and an AeroPress. So
we didn't even bring the cart.
Oh, okay.
Because we didn't know where to.
Why would you need it?
Yeah, and the condo looked really fancy, and
True.
We just didn't even know what to do with it. So we didn't bring it. I brought an AeroPress. He brought a clever dripper, which is basically like the similar thing as me, except there's a lock on the bottom where you don't have to push. It just comes out. Mm-hmm. So he had the easy job, Matt did, and he just filling it up and just cranking out drinks so much faster than me.
Yeah.
And I'm just making a mess over at my station, just trying to figure out what to do. I don't have a mug. I don't have anything. And basically, after all that, it was great. There's people asking about, like, do you guys have cards? Do you have an Instagram?
Did you have a name at this point?
Nothing.
No.
We're just like, yeah, we've never done this before. And we've just
super honest with everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. We were honest, but we were also trying to keep this mystery about it, where we're like, we don't know what it's going to be yet. It might be the biggest thing you've ever known, but just wait. Meanwhile, we're just shaking and so nervous. But there was a lot of encouraging conversations that night, and that was the first glimpse that there could be something here.
Mm-hmm. That's good. So when did you guys figure out the name?
So we had a handful of one day we just sat down. We're like, we got to figure this out.
True, just rifled them off.
We just got to think of some names. And the biggest thing for us was we don't want it to sound like it's a coffee company.
True.
We didn't want it to be like the bean or the cup. Or that's the thing about coffee is in coffee's history, whenever someone has made something to do with coffee, it looks the worst.
Pretty cheesy.
It'd be like a tea towel that looks like your nanny knit it like a few weeks ago, or
that's true.
Someone who just is like colorblind put it together and it just doesn't work.
So this explains why you guys have a good aesthetic.
So that's why we were thinking so hard about it, because we want it to be something that was relatable and different, and not one of those just atrocious looking things. So
from an onlooker's perspective, the first things that I noticed is that like you guys are definitely different, just from the aesthetic that you like put out and all the content that you put out. It's not just like a classic like coffee beans and whatever. Yeah. Like there's definitely thought put behind it, and I'm guessing that the whole premise is built off like serving the community and like serving these people that like are around you, and like just trying to start like conversations.
Yeah, so we landed on Stock and Crown as a name coming from like a faith perspective. Both of us, Matt and I, we just believe that there's a God like greater than any like little company that we could throw together. That's just like our personal belief, and we wanted the company to be so much more than what we could possibly do on our own.
Sure.
And the stock part is basically in building a boat. The framework is built on the stockade. So that's like the strongest part. So that's basically the business concept is serving out of strength and serving out of a place of a strong foundation. So that's where the whole name came from.
That is cool.
So, and it also helped because we wanted it to, for anyone that heard Stock and Crown as a name, that no one would know what it is. Like, it could be...
Yeah, it's a massive story that I would have not guessed.
Right. Yeah. So it could be a coffee company, but it could be a clothing company. It could be...
Yep. Could be an agency. It sounds like a creative agency.
Yeah, it could be... We could make films. We could make anything. And that was the whole point. And we were talking about this a little earlier when I was saying that I feel like there's so many passions and dreams and thoughts that you and I both have. And Stock and Crown for me is like just the beginning of what so many of those things could be.
So how do you know which ideas to like push forward and which ideas to kind of let go? Because the ones that you let go are equally as I'm going to use the word valuable, because you need to let things go to like pursue other things and make those things great. Yeah. And if you don't, then everything will fail.
A big thing for me has been a mixture of self-awareness and just affirmation and confirmation from community around me. So, for example, because I was so into music growing up, that naturally, I always thought that I would end up doing music for a while.
Yeah, somebody that plays all these instruments makes sense.
And I was always like, I'd be down to like sit in a studio all day and produce records and do all this stuff. But it got to a point where I really had to choose. Like, I have all these things that I feel like I can do, but ultimately I basically took what the biggest dreams were in my mind, or
Mm-hmm.
what I had written down.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just going to sit on these for a while and work on them.
Mm-hmm.
And then whatever comes.
True.
So it wasn't really a cookie cut decision.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of naturally flowed out.
One of the biggest things that like I've been trying to do it just in the last couple of years, I've had so many like little ideas that like maybe I'll go this direction, maybe I'll go this direction, and I really like writing it out really helps. And like I've just been thinking like, what am I gonna want to do in 3 years?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like, and that thinking through that far is like, maybe I don't actually want to do that because I don't want to be doing that in 3 years. But and like think about it at the very primal state. Like, well, I still want to be doing the very bottom rung, serving coffee to 5 people in 3 years. If the answer is yeah, then like, yeah, I'm in it for sure. Because like, I'm still impacting those 5 people, or like at least getting to talk with 5 new people and like serve them and like hear what they have to say.
Yeah.
So I feel like that definitely, for me at least, it was a huge impact on like making decisions.
Mm-hmm. And a big thing that I still am learning is it's never, whatever you choose is not going to be at its finished product when you choose it.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Like everything is starting as like a seed, like such a small little thing to start, but that's why it takes time and effort and energy, and it's just discerning whether or not you think it's worth it, like in you.
Yeah, and you obviously thought Stock and Crown was worth it. You guys are working on it. What stage do you think you guys, what would you say it's at right now?
So we officially started it just before my wedding last year.
Okay.
And we've done a handful of events for...
Not serving out of an AeroPress anymore?
No. If we do serve out of an AeroPress, it'll be very thought out and organized. And I'll bring a mug. But yeah, so we've done a few events for just some people that we know, and even some people we don't know. Just been spreading through word of mouth. We really haven't touched social media that much as a business, which is something we're going to be working on upcoming.
That's almost like a positive if you're just strictly working word of mouth. Social media comes after the fact, and worry about really what's in front of you, keep being present, and worry about like if you're already serving these people, then they know how good the coffee is. Right. They know how good the company is and how nice, because I'm sure that's a factor of like you guys getting gigs, how nice you are, how good the coffee is.
Yeah. And we've done a wedding. We've served out of this creative space in like near where I live, like a handful of times. We just got connected with a community of people that want to support people organizing businesses or just pursuing dreams or passions, and they would meet in this loft in Whitby, and
That sounds sick.
it would just be all these people showing up with ideas or businesses, or just like it could be as simple as like an Instagram account that follows your shoes. But I want to be in the room with people that are figuring it out just as much as I am.
Do you think coffee is like that for you? Like it's more of like a gateway of like to meet people and like open doors, and maybe that's why you're like interested in it so much?
Yeah, I still ask myself some days like where this deep interest and like fascination has come from.
Yeah, well, like it's like on the top level, sure, it's coffee, but on the bottom,
yes,
it's knowing somebody deeper than like just like, hey, how are you? Oh, weather's really good.
I feel like I wanted to note on this for anyone listening or watching was that the opportunities don't just like show up, and sometimes it takes like sticking your neck out and being vulnerable. Like for example, for this pop-up, I went in like probably 5 or 10 times just to
Say
meet
what's up.
with an owner and just like say what's up and look through clothes. And meanwhile, knowing that I will ask, like,
Yeah, you got to build a relationship first.
Yeah.
There's a fine line that you have to walk and show your value and support before you can walk into something and be like, hey, can I just like have some of your space? And they're like, I don't even know you.
Yeah.
But if you build that little relationship, they're more willing to say, yeah, sure, and like help you out.
And the process is, people glorify it, that it's this whole exciting thing. I know even people look at what Matt and I do and think it's this whole amazing thing that's just dropped in our lap, and every day is like, you're just making coffee and it's working out like perfectly and you guys are all established, but it's just like enjoying the ride, really. And as soon as you get fixated on money or just obsessing about where you want to be, then you just miss out on being present in the process.
Especially in the day and age that we live in with social media and everything moving so fast. It's like so tough to just slow down and and be like, okay, this is going to take a while. I like what I'm doing. I enjoy the process. And a lot of people are just like, no, what's going to make me the most amount of money at the fastest rate? And I'm going to do that. And everything else doesn't really matter.
Right.
And everyone's kind of forgetting, okay, well, this is actually what I like, but it's going to take like a couple of years to maybe actually make some money off of it.
Right.
Well, I'll go get a desk job instead.
Yeah. The process, everyone always says like, yeah, enjoy it. And to be like frank, there's so many days when I don't. There's so many days when I just wake up and I'm like, I don't want to touch it today.
There's probably more days like that for me that I'm stressed out.
Right.
But I'm like, it's okay because I'm putting in the time now. And that's something that I think about a lot recently and in the past years. Like, I have to put in the time now to get the rewards later. Yeah. And if I want this path and to enjoy the process, I need to go through the stressful days so I can enjoy the non-stressful days. If I don't know how bad the bad days are, then how am I supposed to enjoy the good?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Do you have any tips for like listening to yourself and trying to find your own way and kind of staying on your own path?
For me, I get trapped in my head a lot. So
is that a good thing, do you think, or is that a bad thing for you?
For me, it's been more of a vice.
Sure.
Because, well, lately it's been more of a vice because I get so wrapped up in the to-do list to get here, to reach this whatever.
Yeah.
You kind of just create a fog around yourself when you get to that point. For me, I want to suggest just drawing on people around you and being vulnerable, which is really uncomfortable at first, but asking, like, where do you see me flourish? Where do you see me come alive?
I never thought about asking that question.
Yeah, because so many people can see things in you that you don't see in yourself. For me, like my wife and my friends and just people around me, even people that are just older than me that have lived on the earth longer than I have.
Yeah. They can see, everyone has a different perspective. Why not try to get it? These are just such, like, I would never think about to ask somebody like, hey, where do you see me light up the most?
Right. And I didn't ask the question, but where I work now, they saw leadership qualities in me that I didn't see.
So you have like a good support group around you?
Yeah. Yeah. I just think it's more than acknowledging that you have a support group, but it's using it.
Do you have any advice for building something like from the ground up and having no way to get it out? Because that's essentially what you guys did.
For me, we had a passion and a vision for something that wasn't really a thing around here, especially for Durham region where we live.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Is where a lot of people think of it as, oh, there's nothing over there, so that means that it won't work. For me, I think that's total 180 flip benefit because that's opportunity that you have.
So it doesn't necessarily matter what circumstances like you're in. It's just how much passion is behind it and like what driving force is pushing it through.
Because if you truly value your passion and your dream, then you almost like owe it to that
to push it through,
because if you're like truly believing and like you have a vision for it that you think, dream about, write about, talk to people about, just comes out in conversation. If you find yourself in conversations and you're always talking about it or wanting to talk about it, then there's a good chance you should be doing it.
So that is like, that would be if you have a million ideas and this thing keeps coming up, you should pursue it.
Yeah. And I think it's being aware of the spaces, whether like for me, I had the outlet, but like no plug, like no one was putting me on,
but you knew
to be in a space,
what you were supposed to be doing.
Yeah. But it was finding the spaces where I could like step into and like see it happen. So it's like finding the holes in your whatever it is and just taking steps forward, because there's opportunities and I see them as like spaces, like holes in, like for me, I think of Durham region as just like a big hole because that hole is my opportunity where we can make things happen. We just have to find and like stick our necks out and try things, because when we're trying things, we're taking steps. Whether or not it's going to go anywhere, we're still taking steps.
No matter the outcome.
Yes.
But also pound the pavement because that's what I was thinking. You were like literally going into these shops, meeting these people that you previously don't know. They have a new space and you're just putting your neck on the line saying, hey, this is what I do. Would love to come in and do this for you.
And it naturally flows out of how much you value your vision and your passion for what you want to do. Like for Matt and I, Stock and Crown was originally created for Durham region. And it's because we saw a hole there. Even though there might be shops that come and go and little ones that families open up or whatever, adding more people into it. I think that's why so much of Toronto thrives. It's because there isn't just one place. There's so many, and they're all part of the same community, coffee community. It just builds it up. So people might be like, why do you guys need to feel like you need to step into this region and do this? It's because it's for like the future of the region. It's not just for us. It's not just for our business. It's for the betterment of all of it.
Do you ever see getting a storefront? Like, is
totally.
That yeah.
Totally. But I feel like the coffee side is going to be like just a piece, like just a sliver of it. So that's like where the vision comes from.
Yeah. You have time to like figure out the rest of the pieces.
Yep.
Are you guys serving in like churches and stuff right now on Sunday mornings or something?
Not at the moment.
No.
That might be something we would get into. If anyone's listening to this, I'd be down to chat. So right now we're setting up details for this pop-up in downtown Whitby, and we're going to be there weekly. Just once a week.
Do you want to plug
for a chunk of time?
Do you want to plug the address or
if when I have the details all carved in stone, then I will totally share it.
Do you like coffee or serving more? Like, would you say serving is a gift that you would have?
Yeah, like hospitality. That's tough.
Like, what do you get more enjoyment out of, like making coffee or like serving it to somebody?
It's serving it, because that's the connection piece. When it becomes bigger than me and bigger than what I'm doing. It's because if I can't, it's like goes back to if I can't skateboard with people, I don't want to do it.
Sure. It's all about community, all about relationships. And it's pretty much, that's what makes things fun or like wanting to like pursue it, I guess.
Yeah.
One last thing for before we wrap up? Like, give me a rundown of like your morning. What's your favorite style? Are you an AeroPress guy every morning? Like, are you just a drip?
So yeah, usually I wake up and I just like constantly play music.
Mm-hmm.
It's like usually the morning is like something super slow and chill.
Mm-hmm. So where's the borderline for this? Are you like, do you guys have a thing in your house that's like play music but no screens before whatever, or is it
Something that my wife and I have been working on lately is just keeping our phones out of our bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'll set an alarm and like leave it in the room somewhere, but as in like
not within
scrolling
hand?
just like endlessly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to like just be more aware of how much I'm taking in.
Yeah, like be a little bit more intentional. Don't make it an extra step. I find right now it's like if there's no middle step that I have to take to be like, and now I'm on Instagram.
Yeah.
But if I like put it in a different room, I'm like, I don't really want to go on that bad.
Yeah, and I didn't start doing like not checking my phone right away. That was like 2 or 3 years ago. I was just like, I'm just gonna try this for a bit, and it's kind of like a lifestyle experiment. Just like I'm just gonna try this for a bit. I'm gonna do all the things that I want to do in the morning. Where for me, so yeah, I'll wake up. I usually go turn on some music. I'll start making breakfast and make a coffee. I usually make pour-overs with the V60, just because it's like small and it's easy.
So single cup.
What
about your wife?
She doesn't really drink coffee that much. She's like very caffeine sensitive.
Okay.
So if she drinks it past like 11 or 12, she'll be up to like 4 a.m.
Whoa. I wish I was like that.
Yeah. So I ask her almost every day, but I get turned down a lot, but it's okay. Still love her. And I just make coffee, and I usually lately I've just been starting my day journaling, just like my thoughts.
Cool.
Of like what I'm feeling. I try and just like be brutally honest about like where I see the direction, like how I'm feeling about the direction of my life today. And
so what kind of rules do you have? Is it just like stream of consciousness? Will you just go to like, I need to fill this one page, or is it just like whatever's on my mind, it's going to come out. I'm going to put everything on the page, and then I can start my day.
Yeah. It's kind of a mashup of so many things. Sometimes I'll find myself like writing an idea of something just to get it out on paper. Mm-hmm. My backpack is always just filled of like random sticky notes, because if I think of something, I'm just writing out a sticky note, and then it goes right in my pocket, and then it just ends up going right back in the backpack, just full. So yeah, it's usually just like a stream of consciousness, and a lot of time like I'll like write prayers or just things that like I'm feeling, like I'm just trying to really ground myself before a day starts. Mm-hmm. Especially like for me being in like a hospitality role.
Do you think that act of journaling keeps you like a little bit more present?
For sure.
Because then you can be like, here's what's happened, and now my mind is clear.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And I feel like I'm more aware of the ways that like I think and like how I really view things, and like my perspective.
I get that, because you're not lying to anybody. You're just like, this is how I feel about this certain thing. Yeah. Is there anything else that you do that helps you be more present other than like the phone thing? Super good. Mm-hmm. Straight on with the music, just to set a vibe, and then journaling.
A big thing for me, it's been a transition after getting married, is just choosing, like the power of choice. Mm-hmm. And I just believe that like we all have choices in what we choose to do every day, and like that choice is like powerful. To say yes to something is so powerful. And in the past year, I've been trying to transition into saying yes to things that are like truly good for me, and like good for my life and career and marriage and my soul, like all this stuff that are just like really powerful. And for something like so invisible, it's just you gotta choose.
it seems like you're always kind of like big picture, like looking, just getting like a big picture view of like what's going on.
It's funny because when it comes to my life, I'm big picture. When it comes to Stock and Crown, I'm so detailed.
Just like very invested in what's going on right then. I don't know if you have anything for this, but is there anything that you would recommend to listen, read, or watch?
Music, I have to say, I think autumn is like the perfect time, but there's a duo. It's like two guys, and for fall, it's like perfect. They're called Novo Amor.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And like all the music is like so soothing. It's just so good.
So if you could recommend music to listen to at a certain time.
Novo Amor every morning?
Every morning?
You are set.
Right on. Hit him with the social plugs.
On Instagram, my name is Matt Hoyle with 3 T's in Matt, because that one Matt Hoyle, wherever he is.
I noticed that yesterday. I was like, wait a second.
I'm pretty sure he's got like no photos and like 20 followers.
Oh man, one of those.
And no matter how many times I report him, he doesn't go anywhere. He is content to stay.
So Matt with 3 T's.
So
on Instagram.
Matt with 3 T's, Hoyle, MATTTHOYLE, and on Facebook it's just my name, Matt Hoyle. And to find our business, Stock and Crown, is just spelt out on Instagram, STOCKANDCROWN.
And that pop-up in Whippy.
And the pop-up will be on Stock and Crown Instagram
next month.
So just stay tuned. Probably
this month.
Might be this month.
Cool. Stay tuned.
Today? No, next month.
Next month. Stay tuned October. On the Instagram.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, man. Thanks for listening. Go over to Stock and Crown on Instagram. Check out where their next pop-up is going to be. Matt's a great guy, and you should definitely let him serve you a cup of coffee. And as always, if you have anything to say or comment or suggest for the podcast, shoot me an email at hello@thecreativeherd.ca.